today also on what is Playwright, and then we'll continue with our JavaScript. Okay. So, firstly, what is Playwright? It is a modern open source test automation framework used for automating web applications, right? So we have many other tools like Selenium or Qtp or let's say so many other, right, for UI automation. But Playwright is also something similar, but this is a complete open source test automation framework that we can actually use. So when you tell about open source, it is not just about only free. It is that the source code is available in the market so that you will be able to contribute even to the development of the tool itself, or if there are any tweaks or any fixes that can be done, that will be also able to do it. Okay. And firstly, so where is it from? Playwright. Okay, so this was actually developed by Microsoft. Okay, and what are the different kind of browsers and all that it supports is like it supports all the Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit browsers. Okay, when you talk about Chromium, right? Uh, guys, you have an idea on what is this Chromium browsers are? So generally by seeing the term Chromium, right, we just get a tendency like, is it only Google Chrome? Okay, but it's not that. So all the Chromium products, maybe you can actually search in Google also, you'll get the list of browsers that it is supported. So it is like you'll get Microsoft Edge, Chrome, Opera, all these things will come under this Chromium browsers. Okay, so all those will be supported, and also the Firefox will be supported, and also the WebKit browsers. So when you tell about WebKit browsers, right, it is nothing but your Safari, all these things. Okay, so it has vast support to all the browsers that you currently have in the market. Okay, and also we'll be using it for UI, API, and cross-browser testing. And also it is mainly used for UI automation, end-to-end automation, cross-browser API regression. So I'll just give a quick glimpse on what is this whole about is mainly it supports even for the cross-browser and also parallel execution. So you have to keep that term parallel execution and cross-browser. So let's assume you have a test case, okay, that has to be executed in all the browsers like Chrome, Edge, Safari, Firefox, everything, right? But your automation tool is supporting only just one browser. So does it add a value to that? No, right? So when you're doing a tool selection also, you have to think all these points, whether it supports cross-browser or this parallel execution also. So when you talk about parallel execution, what is this parallel execution? Suppose I have this test case which I need to execute in all the browsers. Okay. Now by doing testing for in one browser at a time, it takes a huge amount of time, right? So let's assume I have a test case which runs for 5 minutes and I need to run it in five different browsers. So if I run it sequentially one by one, then how many minutes it takes? 5 into 5, right? It's around 25 minutes. But if I have the feasibility of running it in parallel, okay, so it what it does is all these five browsers it will be executed in parallel, which will actually make it to run it in 5 minutes in it whole. So at that time you are able to execute almost 80% of your execution time with just enabling this parallel execution. Okay, so that's some advantages of it, and also this can be used for UI, API, cross browser, anything. Okay, and nextly, so why Playwright? Why we want to actually take Playwright rather than Selenium or any other tools that are there in the market? So firstly, it is very fast and stable automation execution. So when compared to any other tools that are there in the current market, right, it is actually very fast and even the false failures are very less. Okay, and the implementation for this is actually very easy because of the background that it has, right? The scripting knowledge that it is there for this, which is like JavaScript or TypeScript. With this, you will be able to write, like, the syntax is very low, and even the commands or something or within the libraries of Playwright, those commands are also pretty much easy for you to quickly learn and implement. And also, it actually supports any of the modern applications. So when you tell about modern application, it's like React, Angular, any of this kind of sort of applications, anything will be supported for automating this. Or even if you commit with the platform applications also, right? Like SaaS products like ServiceNow or Salesforce. So even those applications also are also supported for automation using Playwright. Okay. And also there is one good feature in Playwright where it has smart weights. Okay, so because of the smart weights, it is not going to give you a false failures. So whenever, if any of you has worked with automation before, the main issue that we face is synchronization issues, correct? So what are those is, it will, suppose let's assume I want to click on some particular button. Okay, so it will wait for that element, or that element will be loaded very fast, because of that is not able to identify, or that element is actually loading very slowly rather than our expected wait time. So even that is also failure, right? So all these things will be reduced here by using this smart waits. Okay, and also it can be easily integrated with any of our pipelines like CI/CD pipelines. And the main thing here is it supports multiple languages. So this is the key thing. So you can actually automate with Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, C Sharp, anything. Okay. And I think the key features we already covered, like cross browser, auto waiting, parallel execution, headless built-in reports, screenshots, and videos. So mainly we'll cover about these two. The rest all we have covered. Mainly the headless execution. So what is this headless execution? Anyone has idea? If you want to execute your browser, like if you want to execute your test case without UI, then we can actually go for headless execution. So we'll have some flag headless equal to some false. So then you can actually headless true. Then you can actually execute your executions in a headless mode, and also screenshots and videos. Okay, so generally what happens, right? When you go for this headless execution, that execution itself will be very fast. So that's the main thing that we generally do. Whenever you, even you are running it on CI/CD or something also, so people sometimes prefer to go it with headless. Okay, and the next is the screenshots and videos. So what is the screenshots and videos? These are mainly useful at the time of this debugging. Okay, and also when you want to share your test execution results, then you don't need to explicitly take screenshots or videos on your automation execution by manually. Okay, this has an inbuilt feature on the runtime itself. When you're executing your test case itself, at particular step, if you want a screenshot, we can just write a command to execute that screenshot. So it will take the screenshot on that particular runtime. Okay, and even on the videos also, yes, on the runtime, suppose you have a automation test case, which takes some 1 minute or 2 minutes, but you want to see on end to end how that is actually behaving. Okay, on end to end how it is actually behaving. So in those cases, even you can go for this videos also. So this is about a quick introduction to Playwright. So next we'll start about JavaScript. Let's start with JavaScript. So before going to JavaScript, first we need to understand something. Okay. So if you want to use Java, what is that you need in your system, right? Similar to this, if you want to run your JavaScript, okay. So firstly, JavaScript can be executed directly in a browser without having any of the libraries or anything installed in your application. Because even if you see all the web applications, right? All the web applications are developed mostly with JavaScript. Okay. So on a web browser, you can directly execute your JavaScript commands or functions, anything. But if you want to execute JavaScript out of your browser, okay, out of your browser as your local, so then you need to have something called Node. Okay, Node is actually the one which will help you to create your runtime environment. Okay, it will create your runtime environment, which you can execute your .js files. So extension of JavaScript files is .js. Okay, like similar to Java, how we have .java, for JavaScript it is .js files. Now, if you want to execute your .js files, you need Node in your system present. Okay, and there is one more thing. In Java, you have, if you want to download your external libraries, okay, let's assume you want to download Selenium or something, or if you want to download something, your rest assured or something. So you have something called Maven. So anyone aware about Maven? So you get your dependencies using some Maven, right? So in similar to this, here we have something called NPM. Okay, NPM stand for Node Package Manager. Okay, so this will also helps you to get all the libraries. Suppose let's assume I want my Playwright library to be installed. I can use npm. In that I can mention Playwright of this particular version. I want this, or some other third-party tools I want. Then I can mention this node in this node package manager. Like I want this Excel utility of this particular version. Okay, like this. So node is the actual uh, thing, like if you want to run the JavaScript out of the browser, then you would need an environment which will be provided by node.js. Okay, so firstly you have to download node.js. For that to download, there is one official site which is node.js.download. I'll just see if I can ping it here itself. Yeah, I just pinged it here in the chat, in the GoToMeeting chat itself. Hope everyone are able to access. Can someone confirm? Are you able to access?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Cool. Cool. So here, once you go here, you can select your node version that you can actually want. See, you can actually select 26.2 or 24.9 or the recent latest LTS version. See, you can actually select one version below the current one. So that will be like you will not face any other issues, even if there are some any other upgrades or anything. Okay, or you can go for current also. It's not an issue. So you can just select the version and you can select the platform. So if you're using Mac, then you can select Mac, or if you're using Windows, then you can select Windows or Linux or anything. Okay, you can select keep as it is this Docker with npm. Okay, and once you come down, okay, here also you have an option or get a pre-built Node.js. So even you can select this one also directly, like Windows, and if you're running it on 64 or 86 or ARM. So based on which 64 byte or 86 like 36, you can select whatever you want. You can click on this Windows installer. So once you click this, you will get a file generated. Okay, so something like this. Okay, you'll get something called nodejs.msi. Okay, once you get it, you can just double click. So it will tell you for options to select. You can just select next. Already I have it, so that's why it is asking me to change or repair or something. You can just click next, 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 and then finish. So you don't need to make any modifications. Just simply next, 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 and finish. Okay. If anyone are trying, you can actually try it. So once you install and set up everything, right? So once you come here, right, you can open your command prompt. Once everything installation is done, you can see node-v. So this will make sure whether your node has been installed or not with the version. So I have installed node with 26.1.0, so that version has come up. In the same way, when you install node, by default npm also gets installed. Okay, so for that to see, right, you can just go to the command line, search npm space hyphen v. So this will also tell you which version of npm has been installed. Okay. So you don't need two separate installations for Node and npm. It is only one. So once you install Node, you will be able to see both the things get installed. So which is like Node and npm. Okay. So these are first prerequisite to run your JavaScript outside of your browser. Okay. So if you want to run it in any of the editor or from command line or or any other way outside the browser, then you definitely need Node to be installed. Okay. So now we have done with the installation of Node. So next, now we want to write the code, right? So we want to write our automation scripts and everything. So for writing that, it is always better to use some IDE for writing your source code. So that might be an automation script or writing your Playwright script or writing your JavaScript sample files, anything. So for that, in this session or for this complete course, we will be using something called Visual Studio Code. So which people call it as VS Code or Visual Studio Code, anything is fine. So you can go to Google or directly access this site. I'm actually pasting it here. Uh, yeah, you can get this one. So even this VS Code is an so firstly you can just download this VS Code based on the platform that you're using. So if you're using Mac, you can select this Mac, or if you're using Windows, you can go to Windows. So once you come to the site, right, you will see something like this. So either you can go for the installer or zip file. So I would actually prefer you guys to go to this system installer. Okay. So near the system installer, you have something called x64 like this. So you can just click on that. Once you click it, the installer will be downloaded. So when you tell about installer, so generally we have this .exe files, right? Whenever you want to install any of the applications in your system, so the .exe files get generated, right? Similarly, here also you will get a file something like this: VS Code user setup x.exe. Okay. So once you get this file downloaded, you can just double click this. Okay, I already have it, so that's why it is asking me to close. Let me close. Yeah, double click this one. Yeah, I think I already have it, so that's why it is asking, not allowing me. Okay, so similar to Node itself, it will ask you for the setup. So you can just double click it and just click on next, next, next. It will actually install. And once that is installed, you will have an option to select something called select as icon in desktop. So you can select that. So an icon will be created on the desktop. So Node has a different version, npm has a different version. Okay,
Okay,
see,
okay,
these two are
okay.
two different things. Okay, you have downloaded
Uh-huh.
Node of 25. So for Node of
Okay.
25, by default, npm will be installed with that 11 version.
Yeah, got it.
That's the thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay.
Got
Yeah.
it.
So in the similar way, you can download this Visual Studio Code also. Okay, which is VS Code. Okay. Once you download and install it, you will be able to open Visual Studio Code, something like this. Hope you are seeing my Visual Studio Code. So once you install your VS Code, right, you can actually create some workspace. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So before it gets downloaded, right, I'll tell you. Uh, so once you install your Visual Studio Code, you can actually go to your Windows Explorer create some folder here. Okay, something like C drive, workspace, like that. Okay, you can go to file, okay, click on open folder. Once you click on open folder, you will have something to select your workspace. So I created something called workspace. So I just selected this workspace and click on select folder. Okay. Once you select folder, here I can create some new files here. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll create some test.js file. Okay. Why I'm creating with JS? So we are using JavaScript, right? So for that, I am using an extension with .js. Okay, so just to verify whether my editor and Java node everything is installed, I'll just do a print statement here, which is like console.log. I'll just mention welcome to Playwright tutorials. Okay, so what I have done, I'm just telling it again. You can go to file, you can click on open folder, and you can select your workspace which you have actually created and click on select folder. Okay, so after that you can go to file, new file, or here itself you'll get an option to click on create new file. You can click on this create new file and give the name like something test or something like that, and just make sure you are giving the extension as .js. So you can give something called test.js. Okay, just for verifying whether uh, all this setup is fine or not, you can also type something called console.log, and in the braces you can put some text like welcome to Playwright tutorials. I just put it something like this. Okay, and once you write this, right, on the top you will see some icons like this. You guys are able to see where I'm hovering. So you can click this one, the third one, this toggle panel. Okay, you can actually either click on this or use control plus J. Okay, so this will help you to open this terminal. Okay, once you come here, you can simply write a command. Okay, node space the file name. What is the file name here? Test.js. Okay, so what you can do is very simply you can write node and just write the first letter or two letters like TE, and you can just click on tab. This will automatically populate. Okay, it will come something like this ./test.js. You can just click on enter, and if you are seeing the message that you have written in console.log, it means that your setup is 100% fine and you are good to start with your learning. Okay, so hope everyone are able to access it and you are getting the output in the console. Let's start with the concept. So what is the first concept that we are actually looking out for here? Before going through that, we will see what is JavaScript. So JavaScript is actually a very lightweight, high level and interpreted programming language. So when you tell about lightweight, what is this lightweight? Anyone has any idea? Okay, so JavaScript, we generally tell it as a lightweight programming. Okay, why? Because it actually uses very less memory and it has very simple syntax. Okay, now I'll just give an example. Now, whatever the line we wrote to print, what we have written, just written console.log, and it actually printed everything, correct? But the same thing, if you want to do it in Java, what you have to do? First, you need to create a class and you need to create a main method, and inside that main method you need to write again a system.out.println statements, right? There are so many number of lines of code that you actually write it in Java, but if you commit here, just a single line of code which is actually pretty much simpler is actually printing you the statement. Okay, so the syntax is very small, and the execution time of JavaScript is actually very fast. Okay, and you can easily execute this in any browser. So that is the reason which we tell like JavaScript is very lightweight and it is a very faster way to execute any of your statements. Okay, so and also the main thing is it is platform independent. So what is this platform independent mean? Anyone? Wherever you can open your browser, right? You can execute JavaScript. Okay, because all the websites that you're running mostly are on JavaScript only. So if JavaScript, if it is running, then it means like JavaScript is supporting, right? So it is actually platform independent. And also it supports all modern web applications. Yes, that we know. And also excellent integration with the automation tools. Yeah. So what is this excellent integration with automation tools? So let's assume you want to automate your test scripts with Playwright. You can actually use JavaScript, or if you want to execute or automate your test case with Selenium also, it is possible. Okay. So that's why we tell like this has a very good integration with automation tools. Okay. So this about a brief on JavaScript, but uh, you guys didn't get any queries on this when you were writing any of your Java program, right? What happens when you start running it? So here we don't have something like compilation. Okay. It executes each and everything line by line. Okay. So let's assume I have 10 lines of code and in Java you have an error at line number 8. Okay. Once you start running your program, whether it will start your execution, it will not. Okay. What it tells is you have a syntax error stating like in line number 8, you have a syntax error. It will tell it. But when you go with JavaScript, it is not that case. It executes till seventh line and then just it throws an error on line number 8. Yes, yes, you. It gets executed line by line and on. You can also consider like you have in a browser you have your 100 or 200 lines of code. It will just consider that particular line is valid or not on the runtime. So next we'll go to this variables. Okay. So what is this variables? So compared to this Java, right? What is this variables? Yeah. So similar to other languages, it is also similar here. So here also we have something called variables, and there are three main type of variables that we have. So one is var, let, and constant. Okay. These are the three different keywords. So when we call about var or let or constant, we tell these are like a keywords. Okay. Mainly these are used to store your data. Okay. Variables are used to store your data. So that can be an any kind of data. So that can be a string, number, arrays, objects, or anything. Okay. So by using any of these keywords, you can actually store your data. Okay. The very first one we want to talk about is var. Okay. So this is an older version of declaring variables, but still it is supported. Okay. But still we can actually use even in the modern also. But people right now tell let's not use this var. Why? Because you have a scope. Okay. When I talk about scope, what is that is like you have a for loop or if condition. So in that if condition or for loop, you have declared a variable, something with where you will be able to access outside of that scope also. In the sense, you have declared a local variable, and if you want to use it outside also, it is accessible. But when it comes to let, okay, it stays just within that particular scope. Okay, so that's why we call let as a block scope. Okay. Maybe once I give the example and we start implementing, it will be more easier for you. And also, there is something called constant. Okay. So what is this constant? So when we use constants are like, if you don't want to change a value, if you don't want to reassign a value to particular variable, then we use something called constants. Okay. So let's assume I have something called employee ID. Okay. I tell like constant employee ID equal to 1. Now, in later in any of the programming, I cannot tell employee ID equal to 2 because employee ID is something constant, is respective, is something mapped to one particular person or one particular employee, right? So we cannot just tell like you can just reassign this value to some other. So in those cases where you feel like this value should not be reassigned to a new value, in those cases we can use constants. Okay, so let's go to some implementation for it. Okay, yeah. So what I'll do is I will declare something called where keyword. I'll tell this is a VRB, something like this. Something like I'll tell it as 10. Okay. In the similar way, for declaring a let variable also, you can use something called let. So this is the keyword let var. I'll tell something like me. Okay. And in the same way, for declaring a constant, you need to use something, a keyword called const. You can mention stv. You can tell something like 101. Okay. So like this, you can actually declare your variables with some keywords which are like where, let, const. So if you go to console, if I want to print this console dot log, you will tell, just put like variable. So I'll tell about this plus icons and everything, but just for now, just bear with me. Okay. So just for now, just understand whenever in console.log, if you want to append a static string with the variables, you can just use plus icon next to this so that you will be able to access your variables. Okay. The similar way, I'll put something called console.log let variable plus let. Then console.log constant variable like this, right? So like this, I can actually print it. So for printing, for executing, what do you need? We need to write node space hyphen the file name. Just click enter. See, now you are able to print all the variables like where, this one, let, constant, all this. So this is one thing. Okay. And now let's come to scoped. I'm just telling like, I'm just writing some simple if condition. If something is true, I'm declaring block equal to scope variable. Okay. Next, I'm telling something like let block let equal to scope variable let. Okay. So if you see this, these two variables are within a particular block, correct? Now if I try to console.log variable console.log block let. Okay. Now these two are in particular scope, and now I'm trying to execute those. Just see what happens. What it is telling? Block let is not accessible, is not defined. So this is what I'm telling. So you will be able to access the where, but this block let cannot be accessed as this is a scoped variable. So this let is present in this particular scope. You can consider like a particular block or particular within this particular loop or a block, you will be not able to access it outside. Suppose let's assume if I comment it. So for commenting, you can just use double slash. Now if I run it, sorry, sorry. I need to comment this one. Instead of this, I commented this. Okay. Now you see the scope variable where it was able to get it, but let it didn't get it. Okay. So this is the main difference of where and let. So variable is not a scoped variable, but let it is a scoped variable where you will be not to access it outside. Okay. So any doubts so far on this?